Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief. I love joining you guys every Monday to Thursday to bring you the top stories making headlines in Israel. As always, we are brought to you by Lay of the Land, and you guys know to check out all our original content on our website at www.layofthelandonline. Especially on the weekend when you're looking for something to read, we've got the whole of Israel covered for your convenience. So let's take a look at those top stories. We are on 104 or day 104 since the start of Israel's war against Hamas. And today we begin with news that little Kfir Bibas, the gorgeous little redhead baby, has turned 1 in captivity. Let's wrap our heads around that for a minute. This was a little boy who was 9 months old when terrorists came into his peaceful kibbutz near Oz on the 7th of October, and his father, his mother, his older brother Ariel, who's 4 years old, and little baby Kfir were kidnapped and taken hostage in Gaza. Now, we still don't know the whereabouts or any updates about baby Kfir. There were rumors a couple of months ago that perhaps Hamas had killed the babies and the mother and told that to the devastated father, but we don't have confirmation. A former head of military intelligence last week said he believed Yehia Sinwar, the mastermind behind the atrocities, is alive and might be surrounding himself with some of the hostages as a human shield. But I just want to reiterate, we don't know where the Bibas family are. We just know that today a sweet little boy has spent nearly a quarter of his life being held hostage by terrorists in the Gaza Strip. Little Kfir Bibas, we want him home now. Bring them all home now. And of course, as human beings who know wrong from right, we think to ourselves, is someone comforting this little baby? Is he warm? Is his tummy full? Is he okay? Does he understand what is happening to him? All we know is that it takes savages of monumental cruelty to do this to an innocent baby. Today, the friends and family of the Bibas family, as well as freed hostages, will hold events around the country to celebrate his birthday and to draw attention to the fact that baby Kfir Bibas is still being held hostage, along with over 130 other men, women, children, some of them whole families. On the subject of hostages, at least 5 trucks with medical aid have entered the Gaza Strip. Yesterday we brought you that story that the Qataris had brokered a deal to bring in medical aid into the Gaza Strip, not just for the civilians in Gaza, but also for the hostages. We really hope and pray that that medicine gets to those hostages. There has been a lot of criticism in Israel for the International Red Cross, because they have said time and again they can't force themselves on Hamas, they can't push themselves in, there's no way they can get medicines to the hostages. Here it has been proven if you go through the right channels, it is possible. We understand that this was the initiative of the families of the hostages who appealed to French authorities who procured the medicine, and finally that was sent in. Still staying with the hostages, we now go to the World Economic Forum happening in Davos. President Herzog spoke earlier this morning. The president held up a picture of baby Kfir and spoke about how this 1-year-old little baby is turning 1 in captivity as a hostage held by Hamas. The president also addressed the horrors that hostages are enduring, calling on international leaders present, the international community, to put the pressure on Hamas to bring our people home, let our hostages go. The president also addressed the issue of a 2-state solution, saying that Israelis are still very, very deep in our mourning, in our grief, and that the possibility of talking about a peace process and 2 states is completely off the table at the moment. He said, for Israelis, we understand now that our neighbors hate us and they support terror. And from our perspective, terrorism needs to be uprooted. He spoke of an evil empire in the form of Iran and said that an international coalition needs to face off against this terror, needs to destroy this terror. If there is to be any hope for a peaceful resolution between Israelis and Palestinians, Hamas and other terror entities and their Iranian sponsor need to go. The president also addressed the issues of the day after in the Gaza Strip. This is a topic of conversation that is coming up more and more. What will happen in the Gaza Strip the day that Hamas is, please God, seriously defeated? And the president said he hopes that a coalition of international states, maybe some Arab states, will enter the Gaza Strip and a new reality for the people of Gaza that will be away from the indoctrination, away from the terror, so that a lasting peace and a bright future for those in Gaza can take root. The freed hostages who accompanied President Herzog and his wife, Mrs. Michal Herzog, met with the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on the sidelines of the WEF in Davos earlier today. They spoke to him about the importance to free all the hostages, and Guterres said that he keeps the dog tag that says Halev Shelanu Shavui Ba'aza, our heart is held captive in Gaza. He says he keeps that in his pocket. He goes everywhere with that in his pocket, and he says he continuously calls for the immediate release of the hostages. Mr. Secretary General, that's not enough. First of all, wear that dog tag and shout louder. We want our hostages home now. For those calling for a ceasefire, which essentially means that Hamas will have the opportunity to rearm, why aren't you calling for the hostages to be released? This war could end tomorrow with the unconditional surrender of Hamas, and for their leaders to stand in front of a war tribunal, and for the immediate release of all of our hostages. We go to the United States, where a resolution has been introduced into the House of Representatives led by Representative for the Democratic Party, Lois Franklin. Backed by 149 bipartisan representatives, the resolution calls for the immediate recognition and condemnation of crimes of sexual violence committed against Israeli women and girls on the 7th of October. The resolution calls the acts against Israeli women and girls unfathomable depravity and speaks about the horrors that these women and girls endured. The resolution also condemns UN Women and other women's rights organizations for ignoring the plight of Israeli women. As you can understand and you can hear, the neighborhood dog has a lot to say about that as well. And the resolution acknowledges the massive crime and gathering of information that is being done to bring the plight of these women to the world. And finally, South Africa. South Africans will protest outside the headquarters of Cricket South Africa a little later today, calling for an end to anti-Semitism in the sport, and for David Teeger, what's the word I'm looking for here? The captain who was told to step down, but in the words of the ANC, fired as captain for supporting the soldiers of the IDF. This has been a very, very controversial case and has gone around the world, and the optics are not good for South Africa. And from here in Israel, watching all of you out there, so many of you, Jews, Christians, our allies, former cricketers, and many who believe in the right of David Teeger to be reinstated as captain, and who stand opposed to anti-Semitism. Thank you. We see you, we stand with you, and we applaud you. And that brings me to the end of today's edition of the Israel Brief. I can't believe I got through this without hiccuping or sneezing or coughing. It's a first in the last 2 weeks for me. Thank you guys for all your messages of concern and all your wonderful remedies on how to deal with hiccups. Let me tell you something, I have learned a lot in the last couple of days. And thank you guys for taking care of me. Don't forget this weekend to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. Our Facebook community is at Lottle's site. Like us, share us, follow us. You guys know what to do. Our YouTube channel is at The Israel Brief. If you like us, subscribe to us by hitting that red subscribe button. And we're on X at Lay of the Land 5. I'm Rolene Marks. I want to wish you all a wonderful weekend. Stay safe wherever you are. Shabbat Shalom. And I will see you on the other side of this on Monday with your headlines. Take care of yourselves and each other. And thank you for sorting out my hiccups. See you on Monday. Take care.